Hello, everybody. It's Tom from the anime roster, and I'm joined with.
Theo.
And today we're going to be reviewing My Home Hero Episode 5. And this was a anime that Theo suggested for me. And what were the things that kind of made you interested in it, Theo? Because I never heard of this, and I watched all the episodes within, today, and I really like it a lot, especially this episode.
Uh, so I've kind of got my sights on this since around the time it came out, and a lot of people seem pretty mixed about it, at least from what I've seen from like Mal. But I actually do think that it's a pretty decent series. I do think that it does have a few problems, mainly to do with some of the writing, but aside from that, I do think that it's actually pretty enjoyable for what it is. It's essentially like a somewhat. It's kind of like a mystery thriller. Essentially, the story is just centered around like this ordinary salesman. He's a father and he has a daughter. His name is Tetsuo Tosu, and he has a daughter named Rika. And basically, Rika is kind of she's kind of involved with someone who's kind of involved with a uh, gang or like a kind of like a crime syndicate organization. So her boyfriend being like Nobito, and he's like a guy with blonde hair, and basically kind of just doing these very abusive things behind the scenes. And he almost like barely hides it. He almost like gloats in it. He's almost like uh, prideful about doing these things to her. And then, on top of that, he's kind of just going from like woman to woman, and not exactly respecting her as a person or anything like that. Then I think Tetsuo is kind of just trying to get behind all this, and I think in like the first episode or so, he's kind of like he kind of follows this dude around, and he knows what he's doing and what he's doing to her. Yeah, basically, he gets caught, and then they try to blackmail him. They try to blackmail him and like take photos of him like naked in case like he tries to call the police. Yeah, basically, he's kind of in a situation where it's like if he does tell the police, they'll definitely chase him back down and kill him. And if he tries to fight back, then they'll definitely kill him because he's trying to defend himself and his daughter. So it's kind of not a good situation already. But then it kind of gets worse when Tetsuo finds like Nobito in his daughter's apartment, and then he overhears him just talking about how he's trying to kill his daughter, and I think like sell her off or something like that. And obviously, the no father would let something like that happen, especially if they overheard something like that. So eventually, he murders him, and then it all kind of just like spirals from there. Yeah, it's a very fascinating plot, and I do think that the more it goes on, the more interesting it gets, particularly with like the plot and everything like that.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and especially in episode 5, really things are starting to come full circle in the sense that the organization that Nabuto, I believe, was a part of, is starting to kind of be suspicious of, what Tetsu's saying about the situation. And I think they're finally starting to catch on to him. Now, Tetsu, is a very smart guy, and that's one thing I think they displayed really well in this anime through the circumstances that him, his daughter, and his wife were in. And right now he's trying to basically create this illusion to the organization that Nabuto is still alive by going onto his different social media account and then getting one of his friends that he knew from high school to basically create, I guess, this sort of false like depiction of Nabuto doing something and then posting it on social media. And this episode was basically in the process of that. I think in episode 6 they're finally going to work that out and make it come to fruition, but that was something that I liked and it was very strategical, and it's going to give Tetsu and his family a little bit more time until the organization becomes a little bit suspicious. Now, what I liked a lot about this episode was that we got to see a bit of Tetsu and his wife's upbringing because they showed flashbacks from 20 years ago and we got to see them interact and to know that they've been together for that long and they were in the same class together in high school, I guess kind of adds a little bit more depth to his character and also, why he's so, I guess, afraid of potentially dying and having his family go through pain because he loves his wife and he obviously loves his daughter. So that was cool. And then I guess another thing that I really liked about this episode was that towards the end of the episode, when he's at the bar, I guess a bar that Nabuto goes to, Tetsu has a conversation with a guy named Matori. And Matori basically, I guess, was drunk or whatever, and he was saying that if someone ever did something to someone that I love, I would do horrendous things to that person and their family. And Tetsu was kind of freaked out a bit by that. But then the bartender at the bar told him that the individual that he just spoke was actually Nabuto's father, which obviously like that's very rare for that type of situation to happen where the killer actually meets up with the son's dad, but it's an anime so they obviously added that in there, but I thought that was a good addition and that probably is making Tetsu a little bit more afraid. And so those were really just a few things that I noticed about this episode that I really liked. What about you, Theo? What do you think?
Uh, so yeah, there was a lot of things that I actually did like about this episode in particular. Um, a lot of things that I also kind of hated, mainly towards like the gang members and stuff. Which I guess in terms of writing is pretty good if you're trying to make like hateable characters and stuff. But that being like in the start of the episode, you kind of see like the crime members and stuff. They're trying to like blackmail Tetsuo again with like the recording him like saying these things about like how he just murdered the person behind him in case that he tries to call the police and get them involved so that they can actually blackmail him and make it seem like he's incompetent or like he's a murderer or something like that. And I feel like in real life, in situations like that, with the way that Tetsuo was acting in that scene, it would be painfully obvious that like he's being blackmailed or something like that. But it's an anime, so it's like I guess they're not going off of really realistic logic. But yeah, it's just like something funny. I've wanted to point it out. Yeah, the other things I kind of liked about this episode was yeah, seeing like the characters when they were in college and then they're meeting like an old friend. I think his name was like Tabata or something like that. And this was like 20 years ago, so I think like before Rika was even born. And you kind of see them having like a bit more context to how things were before, like they kind of started like a family and stuff. You get to see more to do with like I guess like the people that they used to know and where they were then, and it kind of ties into the plot now with like the whole thing with trying to make up this setup where it seems like Nobito is getting like killed or something like that, so that they can try and make it seem like they were the ones who were innocent the whole time, even though in reality they kind of are. It's just they gotta go through these obstacles to make it seem like they're innocent to the crime members, and it's kind of fascinating. It's also kind of a little bit convoluted. Like not to say stuff like that can't happen in real life, but it's like it's kind of weird seeing someone have to do this much just to protect their family. But again, it can it's also kind of fascinating. And yeah, overall I'd give this episode and this series like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I genuinely like it so far, and I do want to see more that the series can bring to the table. So yeah, that pretty much would be my review for it.
Yeah, same. I would give it around a 7 out of 8 in terms of like a 7 or 8 out of 10. And I guess, one final thing that I noticed in this episode that I really liked was Tetsu's wife, Kason, when she was in the car with, I think, what's his name? Tabita?
Uh,
Tabita? The guy
yeah,
that they,
Tabata.
yeah, from when they knew about, the guy that they knew from college. She was talking about her love for her children and her husband, and she doesn't care about happiness as long as they're alive and that they're taken care of. And even though that's obviously like brief out of the whole episode, that little addition I thought was really cool because it kind of shows how much she cares for her husband and her children, or rather her daughter in this case, and that family bond is very powerful and strong. And even with Tetsu, when I think in the first episode when Rekka was playing the piano, I believe he was crying because of how beautiful his daughter's performance was in terms of her ability to play the piano. So Tetsuya, I think, in many ways is like he's a complicated character. He's not like obviously extremely complex like what you'll see in like a manga or a shonen anime, but there is a lot of depth to him. He's not bland. We see him crying, happy, sad, feeling, bitter, resentment, feeling guilt, and they've been able to display a wide variety of emotions from him within the past 4 or 5 episodes. And to be honest, with the recent anime I've seen, they haven't necessarily been able to do that with a lot of the other, like a lot of the main characters haven't been able to do that as much. So that I think is another upside. What do you think about that, Theo?
Uh, yeah, I do think that like with Tetsuo, yeah, he does show like three dimensionality to him, I guess. Where you kind of see, you kind of understand what he's going through, and like you pretty much don't really blame him much throughout the anime because he's pretty much just uh, living this life where uh, he tried to raise a daughter who was uh, who could be like a good person, and assuming we're assuming that like he himself is a good person, so it kind of just sucks to see him kind of go through all this stuff, and then at the end of it all, like his daughter is dating like a very just terrible person who's crime affiliated, and obviously for a father that would just turn you off like immediately, and you'd want nothing but the best for your father. I mean for your daughter, and so I guess like for him he had no choice but to take measurements into his own hands because getting the police involved would complicate matters due to him being blackmailed and stuff like that. It's just something you're gonna have to see like as a as the series goes on, but yeah, it's like I said, I find the anime to be pretty fascinating, and I think the plot's really well done so far. So yeah, overall I'd say episode 5 is pretty good, and those are pretty much my thoughts.
Yeah, same. Those are basically all my thoughts as well. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me in this discussion, Theo, and thank you for sharing your awesome views.
Yeah, no problem.
And also, we just want to say thank you everyone for watching and have a great day.